Today we're going to check out some really cool ways to use the eraser tool in Adobe Illustrator. So let's jump into Illustrator. You go to Windows, Workspace, Layout, and to make sure we all see the same thing, we're gonna press Reset Layout. Now I'm going to hide this for the time being. We are going to make a complete circle, and we're going to change the color and make it gradient, so you can reach out your gradients by going here, gradients. Let's go to color combinations. I'm going to move it over here, and we are going to pick all these blues. So now we have a gradient circle. I'm gonna close that, and the eraser tool is right here. Shift E is the shortcut for the eraser tool. If you click on the eraser tool and you erase, it is part of the circle and it is still a closed object. I'm going to Apple Z to delete this, and we are going to use the eraser tool again and go through, and now you can see that the circle is two different shapes. So that's one way to use the eraser tool. I'm going to press Shift Z again to undo. And if you go to double click the eraser tool, you get the options. So currently we were doing 10 points, 100% round, and 0 angle. So we're going to increase the size to, let's say, 41 points. We are going to change the roundness to something like 42%, which makes it flat, and then we're going to change the angle. Press OK, and now if I use the eraser tool, you see that it creates this variation. And now it is only one shape, but if I were to erase and touch these, now we're making two shapes, three shapes actually. Boom, boom. So you can do some really cool things by doing so. All right. I'm going to delete all of it from my document. I'm going to take the rectangle tool and make an entire rectangle with, let's change the colors now. We're going to get another gradient, color combination, and let's go with this. I'm going to go to the gradient panel and I'm going to make it circular. Now I'm going to go to my layers and lock that layer, create another layer on top, and create another rectangle, but this one I'm going to make it black. So I'm going to press D, and that goes back to the originals, and press on the arrows, and this creates a black rectangle. Now I'm going to use the eraser tool, and I'm going to go back, double click, and reset. So I'll go to the original. I'm going to just make it a little bit larger. Let's do 20. Okay. And I'm going to draw a heart. Poof. I love you. Now, just so you know, I'm using a mouse, so it's not that evident to do this. Normally you would want to use a pen, and that would be much better. It's just to give you an idea of what you can do with the eraser tool. I'm going to show you how to use the eraser tool with fonts. Press the Alt or Option key and make a copy of that font, just so I have it, because once I start messing with it with the eraser tool, I'm not going to be able to have it as a font anymore. So if I go now to the eraser tool and do anything, it's not working, because you need to select the font, go to Type, and go to Create Outlines. Now when you use the eraser tool, it's actually erasing the font. Boop. Now if you want to change the size, you can also use the brackets. You see how it makes it larger, and the opening bracket makes it smaller. So I'm going to make a little bit larger, and I'm going to go over this. You see how it's kind of straightening it, but it's not that straight. So I'm going to take all this out. Now I can make the shape with open hand the way I want. But if I want a straight line, I just press the Shift key and go straight, and it doesn't let me do anything but straight, and that's a straight line. Shift, straight. Now if I do Option, it makes me draw a rectangle. So I'm going to go here, poof. Now if I were to create a layer and make it yellow and bring it under the text, now you see that the font goes under the layer, and each part, now this appears to be just one part because they're grouped together. So what right now it moves everything together. But if I right click and go to ungroup, they are now completely different shapes. Each one is a separate object. So that's something you can do with the eraser tool. I'm going to remove that. I'm going to take that font, bring it up by pressing Alt. I'm just making a copy. And we are now going to take a very pretty font. I'm going to make it lowercase, make it a little bit bigger. And so that's another way, again, Apple 0 to get in the middle. Another way to use the eraser tool is to modify the fonts to make them your own. If it's for your logo, if it's for a really nice design for a title of a magazine or something like that, you are going to be able to modify it as you will. And of course, that can be applied for anything else you're using. So before we do anything, you choose the font, you go to Type and Create Outlines. Now go back to the eraser tool. We're going to make it a much smaller, so I'm going to click on the bracket here, and let's say this is a little bit too large for me. Poof, I'm going to bring it here, and I don't want it to end quite like that, so I'm gonna do this. Now I'm going to want to get even smaller, and I'm going to double click here, and I want to match those shapes, so I'm going to change the roundness, make it like this, a little bit narrower, and then you see, okay, I'm going to come here and puff. It's too small, so I'm going to make it a little bit larger, and I see it, puff. I'm going to make another circle here. Well, I could play with it all day, but it's just really to show you how cool the eraser tool can be if you know how to use it and why. So I hope you learned a couple of things. Thanks for coming back to Katia's Buzz. I hope you will like this video and subscribe to my channel. Remember, I'm doing a complete video tutorial on Adobe Illustrator. I'm gonna go from A to Z. I'm gonna look at all the options, the panels, everything it has to offer so that you and I both become better at it.